Welcome to the Red Pill Podcast, powered by agencyx.net. Explore AI-driven creativity, groundbreaking innovations, and industry insights, all in one game-changing podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome back to our listeners, and a special welcome to those of you tuning in today who embody our favorite persona.
Yes. The learner.
Exactly, the learner. The ones constantly trying to understand the shifting ground under our feet right now. And to start us off today, I want you to picture a scenario.
Okay.
Have you ever opened up one of those AI image generators, typed in a quick, maybe 20-word prompt, hit enter, and watched as this slick, incredibly high-resolution image just materializes on your screen in like 3 seconds?
Oh, yeah. We all have at this point.
Right. And you look at this deeply polished, hyper-realistic visual, and if you're anything like me, you lean back in your chair, take a sip of your coffee, and think, wow, I am basically a seasoned art director now.
Yeah. It's an unbelievably seductive feeling.
It really is.
I mean, the technology delivers this massive, immediate rush of creation without any of the traditional friction,
Yeah.
the sweat or the years of practice that usually accompanies making something look that good. It taps right into our desire for instant competence.
It feels like actual magic. But today, we're going to look at the hidden toll of that magic. We're doing a deep dive into an impassioned piece of writing from 2025.
It's a really fascinating piece, yeah.
Yeah, it's by Webb Strix, published by the agency, agencyx, and it recently sparked a massive debate over on the Red Pill podcast. The article is called, again, yes, it is more than urgent. And it tackles this phenomenon the author calls the AI visual earthquake.
And just to set the stage, our mission for this deep dive is definitely not to sit here and bash artificial intelligence.
Right.
This is not some anti-technology crusade. Our goal is to unpack a very specific, very critical misconception that is completely sweeping through creative and corporate industries right now.
The idea that typing a clever text prompt magically equals like decades of domain knowledge.
Exactly. We need to explore the reality of why that isn't true. The premise we are dissecting is how the true future of creativity, the one that actually survives this earthquake, requires a dramatic elevation of human expertise, not the total erasure of it.
Right. And to anchor this whole conversation, there's a defining quote from this piece that we really need to keep front and center. The author writes, "AI generates pixels. Humans generate meaning."
Wow. Yeah, that sentence cuts through so much of the noise.
It really does.
It isolates the fundamental tension we are dealing with here. I mean, the massive difference between the mechanism of production, just, generating an image, and the actual conceptual intent behind the work.
So let's start by looking at the immediate damage caused by this so-called earthquake. The piece spends a lot of time analyzing what it calls the vanishing entry level.
Right, the loss of the junior roles.
Yeah. Think about how it used to be. You would graduate, enter a creative field, and spend your first 2, 3, maybe 4 years doing the heavy lifting.
The grunt work.
Exactly. You were given the tedious tasks that required hours and hours of skilled manual labor. We were talking about meticulously clicking around a subject with a pen tool to remove a background.
Oh, I remember those days.
Or doing basic image manipulation, rotoscoping out a boom mic frame by frame, sourcing stock photos. We're doing like rudimentary video assembly. And now, an AI can approximate the result of all that labor in 3 seconds.
Which sounds great on paper.
Well, yeah, and I have to play devil's advocate and push back on the author's panic here a little bit. Technology has always replaced tedious manual labor, right?
Sure, historically.
Like the washing machine replaced scrubbing clothes by hand. And we don't sit around mourning the loss of our deep, intimate understanding of fabric.
That's a fair point.
Right. So if a machine can isolate a subject from a background in a millisecond, why shouldn't we celebrate killing the boring grunt work? Isn't automating tedious stuff what tech is supposed to do?
It is so tempting to look at it that way. Just, a simple upgrade in efficiency. But the hidden cost goes far beyond just saving an intern 4 hours of clicking.
Okay, so what are we losing then?
Well, the disappearance of that grunt work is effectively the destruction of the industry's entire learning structure.
The learning structure.
Yes. Traditional creative development always relied on a very specific, tactile pathway. It was built on mentorship, endless iteration, brutal critique, and most importantly, learning through failure.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying the grunt work wasn't just about getting the task done, like the task was the teacher.
That is exactly it. Let's look at your background removal example. When a junior designer spends 3 hours meticulously cutting a model's hair out from a busy background using Photoshop paths, they aren't merely learning the software interface.
Or learning how to see.
Exactly. The process forces them to intensely study the way ambient light wraps around a human cheekbone. They are absorbing the physics of edge contrast. They are internalizing how shadows fall and how color reflects off adjacent surfaces.
Wow, okay. I never thought about it like that.
By the time they finish that one tedious task, they have absorbed critical visual information that builds their foundational aesthetic sense.
Right, so a highly skilled art director or a veteran video editor doesn't just know what looks good, they know why it looks good.
Precisely, because they've spent thousands of hours manipulating the raw materials.
Like in video, it's understanding pacing, continuity, and the emotional rhythm of a cut.
Yeah.
Because you physically scrub the timeline back and forth trying to make two completely mismatched shots work together.
Yeah, and AI completely bypasses that essential scaffolding. It just hands you a finished output instantly.
Right.
But it robs the junior creative of the underlying understanding required to actually master the craft. You get the result without the revelation, so to speak.
The result without the revelation. I like that.
So, by automating the bottom rungs of the career ladder, the industry isn't just saving time. It is effectively pulling up the ladder entirely. It ensures the next generation never develops that deep experiential knowledge.
Which naturally brings us to what the article calls the trap. Because this foundational learning structure is crumbling, it feeds an incredibly dangerous illusion across the broader business world.
The text prompt trap.
Yeah. The source piece identifies this core misconception. It's the pervasive belief that articulating a desire is the exact same thing as possessing the expertise to craft it.
Yes. The idea that just because you can describe something, you are a creator.
Right. Anyone can do it with text mindset.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly widespread among clients and middle management right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
It reminds me of the dynamics of a high-end restaurant. There is a massive difference between ordering a gourmet meal off a menu and actually being the executive chef.
That's a great analogy.
When I sit down and tell the waiter, I would like the truffle risotto, please, I'm successfully articulating a desire. And the food arrives, and it's delicious. But I didn't cook it.
You didn't do the work.
I have absolutely no idea what the proper ratio of butter to broth is. I don't know the technique for toasting the arborio rice or how to adjust the heat when the ambient humidity in the kitchen is too high. I just know how to ask for the final product.
And that analogy holds up perfectly when we look at the creative industries today. A marketing manager typing futuristic cityscape for our new tech ad is just ordering the risotto.
Right.
And because they don't know the recipe, because they lack that foundational design training we just discussed, it triggers what the article describes as a massive deluge of the good enough.
Oh, man. We are completely drowning in these visuals. They flood our social feeds and our marketing decks.
Everywhere you look.
And at first glance, they look incredibly polished and shiny. But the moment you actually look closely, they are conceptually completely hollow and technically disastrous.
Let's break down why that happens mechanically, though. The person feeding the prompt to the machine doesn't have the trained eye to critically evaluate the output.
Right, because they skipped the grunt work.
Exactly. They receive an image with high contrast and saturated colors, and they think it's done. They don't have the vocabulary to ask if the composition is actually guiding the viewer's eye to the product.
Or they don't know how to analyze if the color palette genuinely conveys the specific psychological mood required for the brand identity.
Exactly.
And the source gets very specific about the tangible flaws in this flood of content. We've all seen the anatomical impossibilities.
Oh, the hands.
The hands. The AI generates a photorealistic human, but the hand has, like, 7 fingers? Or the whisk bends the way that would require a shattered bone?
Yeah, it's unsettling.
And there's a mechanical reason for this, right? The AI isn't referencing a 3D skeletal structure. It doesn't know what a hand actually is.
No, not at all.
It is just predicting pixel patterns based on millions of two-dimensional images it ingested. So it just keeps adding fingers until the statistical pattern resolves.
Right. Along with nonsensical lighting. You will see an AI-generated scene where the sun is clearly setting in the background, yet the subject has a harsh studio spotlight casting shadows in 3 different conflicting directions.
Which your brain registers as wrong, even if you don't know why.
Exactly. Or you will see a complete lack of consistent style within a single campaign. Jarring compositions that make the viewer subtly uncomfortable, and an overwhelming drift toward this generic, plastic aesthetic.
Let's zoom out to the macro implication of this. Why does this matter to you, the listener? Whether you are running a small business, working in corporate marketing, or just consuming media.
It matters a lot.
Because as this tidal wave of good enough AI imagery completely saturates the market, the overall baseline of perceived quality degrades.
It really does.
It functions exactly like economic inflation, but for visuals. The intrinsic value of a beautiful image drops to near zero because there are billions of them instantly available, but none of them actually say anything meaningful.
Nuance, originality, and technical precision become incredibly rare commodities. Visuals become entirely interchangeable and honestly, emotionally flat.
Yeah.
We're watching the focus of entire industries shift away from strategic, impactful communication, pivoting entirely toward just generating something as fast and as cheaply as possible to feed the content algorithm.
It's just content for content's sake. So replacing skilled practitioners with untrained personnel, just typing prompts into a text box, is a dead end. It hollows out the work and degrades the entire visual landscape.
A total dead end.
So how do we climb out of this? Because the author is very clear that the answer isn't Luddism. We aren't going to smash the servers and go back to painting on cave walls.
No, the technology is here to stay.
Right. The earthquake happened. The topography of the industry is permanently altered.
And the path forward requires intelligent restructuring. The organizations that survive will be the ones that figure out how to leverage the immense power of AI while aggressively safeguarding and elevating the human expertise we've been talking about.
And the author outlines a fascinating blueprint for this hybrid era, introducing a completely new cast of characters.
Yes, the new roles.
Let's walk through these emerging roles because anyone listening who works anywhere near a creative field needs to understand this new hierarchy. First up, we have the role of the AI art director, or the visual strategist.
This is the new senior tier. Notice the job title isn't senior prompt typist.
Right.
This person possesses deep, hard-won domain knowledge in design history, film theory, consumer psychology, typography. In addition to all of that, they have mastery over the AI tools.
They bridge the gap.
Exactly. They do not merely prompt the machine, they direct it, the same way a film director guides a cinematographer.
They set the creative parameters. They are the essential bridge, translating the complex, nuanced needs of a human client into the mathematical capabilities of the AI.
Yes.
And working alongside them, we see the evolution of the prompt engineer. The text calls them prompt engineers with depth.
Right, moving far beyond basic keyword stuffing. These engineers must understand intense technical constraints to actually get usable assets.
I want to pause on that because it's vital. When we say technical constraints, we are talking about knowing how to manage aspect ratios within the latent space of the AI.
Yes.
We are talking about understanding the specific resolution limits of different generation models.
Yeah.
If you are generating an image for a massive billboard versus a tiny mobile Instagram ad, the way you prompt the machine changes fundamentally, right?
Completely fundamentally.
The engineer needs to know how to speak the machine's language, understanding token limits and context windows to force it to output something that won't, fall apart when it's sent to a commercial printer.
Exactly. Which leads us to the most crucial new role in this blueprint, the critical curator and refiner. This is the individual who fundamentally rejects the idea that an AI output is a finished product. They treat the AI generation merely as raw material.
It's the clay.
Yes.
The AI gives you a lump of interesting clay, but it's full of rocks and air bubbles.
That is a perfect way to look at it. The critical curator takes that raw clay and applies traditional expert-level skills to elevate it to a professional standard.
So they're going in and fixing it.
Exactly. Let's say the AI outputs a brilliant composition for a car advertisement. But the reflections on the car's windshield make absolutely no physical sense. And the brand's logo is mangled.
Because it always is.
Right. So the curator takes that asset into Photoshop or After Effects. They manually reconstruct the reflections using their deep knowledge of light. They do expert compositing to fix the anatomical errors.
They apply professional color grading to ensure the image matches the brand's exact hex codes and color specifications.
Yes, they bring the asset out of the uncanny valley and into reality.
But wait, let me stop you there. This blueprint raises a massive glaring question.
Okay, what's that?
If the senior roles are conceptualizing and directing the AI,
Right.
and these expert curators are the ones refining and fixing the output, What happens to the entry-level 22-year-old we talked about earlier? If the grunt work of cutting out backgrounds and finding stock photos is truly gone, how does a junior creative even get their foot in the door? If we've established that the grunt work was the scaffolding for their education, how do they learn the craft now?
That is arguably the single greatest challenge facing these industries right now. The source argues that agencies and studios must completely flatten their outdated, top-down hierarchies.
Okay.
Junior roles can no longer revolve around production execution. They have to shift upstream.
Upstream. Let's unpack what that looks like in the day-to-day workflow.
Instead of spending 10 hours manually masking out a background, a junior creative will be tasked with supporting the AI art directors through high-level curation and research.
Researching what?
Let's talk about bespoke models, for instance. A massive brand like Coca-Cola cannot rely on a generic public AI model. They need an AI trained specifically on their visual identity. A junior's role moves upstream to compiling that training data.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So the junior is going through the brand's archives, meticulously selecting 5,000 perfectly lit, perfectly composed images of the product.
Exactly.
They are tagging those images with precise metadata, noting the exact focal length, the specific hex code of the red brand color, and the emotional tone of the lifestyle shots.
Yes.
And then they feed that curated data into the system to fine-tune a localized model.
Yes. They are learning the mechanics of what makes the brand's aesthetic work by analyzing the inputs rather than manually painting the outputs.
Right.
Furthermore, they will be the ones sifting through the thousands of variations the AI generates, doing the critical initial curation to present the best 5 options to the art director.
So they're developing their eye by judging the work rather than just executing it blindly.
Exactly. But it requires a total reinvention of our educational pathways, too.
Yeah.
A design school can't just teach the interface of Adobe Illustrator anymore.
Well,
The curriculum has to integrate rigorous art history, ethics, and visual analysis right alongside AI tool history. The next generation has to learn how to orchestrate technology rather than just operate software.
orchestrating technology, that places conceptual thinking, strategy, and brand guardianship at the absolute pinnacle of the value chain.
It really does.
So, bringing this all together, what does this actually mean for you, the person listening right now? Even if you have never opened Photoshop in your life,
Right, this applies everywhere.
maybe you write code or draft legal briefs or handle logistics, this blueprint applies to literally any field-facing automation right now. The ultimate lesson is that the future belongs entirely to those who move upstream.
Upstream.
If your daily job can be reduced to following execution specs, if you are just the person turning the crank, you are highly vulnerable. You have to pivot your focus towards strategy, conceptual thinking, and high-level direction. You absolutely must master the new AI tools, but you cannot abandon the deep craft of your discipline.
That's spot on. To synthesize the central argument, the current trend of trying to replace deep domain expertise with simplistic text prompting is a catastrophic dead end.
Yeah.
It leads only to a massive degeneration of quality and a sea of generic mediocrity. If we want to create work, whether that's a film, a marketing campaign, or a software architecture that is genuinely meaningful, innovative, and enduring, human domain knowledge must be aggressively elevated, not erased.
The pixel needs a purpose.
The pixel needs a purpose, and assigning purpose requires a human mind.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your day. Something that builds on everything we've unpacked here.
Okay, let's hear it.
We talked at length about how traditional apprenticeships and learning relied heavily on doing the manual work, failing, iterating, and literally feeling the rhythm of a video cut or the balance of a layout with your own hands.
Yes, the tactile learning.
Right. So if the next generation of creators learns their craft entirely by directing an AI, by curating its outputs, rather than physically manipulating the raw materials themselves, how will that fundamentally alter the human brain's connection to the art we make?
Oh.
When we stop making those tactile, happy manual accidents, the slip of the pen that suddenly looks brilliant, or mixing the wrong colors together on a palette, only to discover a shade that sparks a completely new idea, do we lose a piece of the human soul in our designs?
That is a profound question.
Or do we simply evolve, finding a completely new conceptual way to express it? Keep that in mind the next time you type a prompt. Watch that incredibly slick image appear on your screen in 3 seconds, and feel that familiar, seductive rush of thinking you are the art director.
A deeply fascinating question for a rapidly changing world.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We will catch you on the next one.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Red Pill Podcast. If you enjoyed diving deep into the future of AI and media, make sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned. Bigger insights, bolder ideas, and game-changing discussions are coming your way. Sponsored by agencyx.net.